I think for me, it means that everyone has a space and our work doesn't stop. For a long time, my faith journey was about hiding pieces of who I was. And so coming from a very involved and established reconciling congregation in New York, and I made the decision to move to Maryland in 2020. Part of where I was going to worship, one of the deciding factors was the church had to be a reconciling congregation. And so for me, while Hunts may be newer to that movement, it's been important to me to see that there are pillars in this church who did the legwork to lay that foundation. And so as someone who's coming in, I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to work with folks to educate, but also to help folks understand that we are all beloved and we all have a place in the church. So unlike, I think, many, a lot of my coming out story happened through the church. So I think that really has allowed me to see God differently, I think, than some other folks. Being at summer camp, growing up, I had leaders who were actually kind of, I guess, pushed out of the church because of their identities. And so there was this whole kind of subset that continued to support them and continued to love them. And part of that was through the reconciling movement. And so I think that watching kind of their struggle, but also the support that they received, allowed me to kind of come into my own. And then when I was ready and comfortable, that is when I came out. And when I realized that that didn't change my relationship with God, and that Christians come from all walks of life, and God has designed us to be exactly who we are supposed to be, and everything happens in His time. And I feel like that has drawn me closer because He never left, He never gave up. He allowed me to see that while there was struggle for others, and there was definitely struggle in my story, that there is also room for you in His house. It has meant a lot to me to be able to have the contemporary service. I came from a church that did contemporary service, and so that kind of made me feel like the transition here was already kind of like home. I think for me that having a pastor, Mary, Sarah, and I, has allowed some of my extended friends and family and networks to see how faith and the church can walk hand in hand with the LGBTQ community. There are many people who have commented on our service and how well done it was at our wedding. And so I think for me, it has meant opening up dialogues, and people ask questions who may not be from some sort of faith background or who may not know. And so I think that Hunts has been able to be a large part of that because the congregation supports our pastor in full inclusion in the church. And so I think continuing to live that out is really a huge piece of why we continue to come to Hunts, because no one has ever made us feel unwelcome here based on who we are or who God has called us to love. There's a song we sing in the contemporary service, Who You Say I Am, and I think I go back to that. And there's a line in it, it says, in my Father's house, there's a place for me. And I think our calling is to do less judging and more loving. I think the Gospels call us to love, and the Gospels call us to seek out those who are hurting or on the periphery. And I think that's exactly what we need to continue to do. You know, I had apprehensions about joining a church that didn't have a large LGBTQ presence, but that was quickly diminished once I got here. And so I think continuing to advocate for LGBTQ people and beyond is important. I think it's it's important to have all walks of life represented here because we don't always know what's on the inside of someone. And we need to continue to love without condition and without limits.